Today is Friday, November 8th. What to know about the first major decisions of President-elect Trump's new term, including a historic chief of staff pick, and what President Biden said in his first post-election speech. Also, we'll tell you about the Fed's latest interest rate cuts and what to expect next. Plus, what's known so far about disturbing racist text messages going out to people in several states, why the FDA wants to ban an ingredient in some popular cold meds, and what one small-town school custodian did that got the building named after her. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. President-elect Donald Trump is now just 73 days away from his White House return, and he's going to be especially busy before then. Trump is planning to put together an entirely new administration than the one that's been working under President Biden. He also said his second administration will not look much like his first. So with that, the Trump transition team is now tasked with filling about 4,000 government jobs, starting with the White House Chief of Staff. That powerful position is going to a longtime Republican strategist, Susie Wiles, who managed Trump's 2024 presidential campaign, and she's becoming the first woman to ever hold that role. Next up, Trump will have to pick a Secretary of State, Defense, Treasury, and so on. But he's getting some help on the decision-making process. His transition is being led by friends and family, including former presidential candidates Robert Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, his adult sons, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, and his running mate, J.D. Vance. Meanwhile, President Biden promised to help by ensuring a peaceful and orderly transfer of power. In his first post-election speech, Biden emphasized unity, saying you can't love your country only when you win. And he called on all Americans to bring down the temperature now that the election is over. Wall Street seems thrilled by the election results. U.S. stocks surged after Trump's win, hitting their fifth best one-day showing ever. Analysts say investors, bankers, and others in finance see an opportunity to embrace Trump's possible tax cuts and deregulation. But as the Wall Street Journal puts it, there's no guarantee that Wall Street's dreams will be fulfilled. Some economists have warned that Trump's proposed policies could bring higher inflation and larger budget deficits, which, if that happens, could discourage the Federal Reserve from continuing to cut rates. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said yesterday he will not speculate on what may happen long-term, but for now, he said the election will not have an impact on near-term decisions. And so, as expected, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates for the second time in a row, this time lowering its key rate by a quarter percentage point to a range of 4.5% to 4.75%. Of course, this usually influences consumer interest rates on things like mortgages, credit cards, and car loans, so it can impact borrowing costs for millions of Americans. The rate cut comes as inflation is nearly back to normal as of the latest report, and data shows a still growing economy, as well as a low unemployment rate, though storms and strikes have muddied some of the jobs data recently. Many analysts expect the Fed to cut rates again in December, then pause to assess the economic impact. By the way, in response to a reporter's question, Powell said he would not step down if Trump asked him to. Trump has said he thinks the president should have a greater role in the central bank's decisions, but as of now, at least, the Fed is independent, and Powell's term doesn't end until 2026. Well, people across several states received some disturbing text messages this week, and now the FBI, FCC, and other law enforcement agencies are investigating. The wording on the messages varied somewhat, but they all referenced slavery and were sent to Black men, women, and children. For example, some people were told they were selected for cotton picking and would have to show up at an address at a particular time or be picked up in an unmarked brown van. Some also mentioned the incoming Trump administration. It's not clear yet who was behind these messages. They were sent from phone numbers with area codes in at least 25 different states, but now several of those numbers are disconnected. Others go to a voicemail, saying the number belongs to someone who uses Text Now, which allows people to create phone numbers for free. Text Now says it's working with authorities and shutting down the accounts behind these messages. Anyone else who receives similar racist text messages is being encouraged to report them. That fast-moving wildfire in Southern California continues to destroy everything in its path, including more than 100 homes and buildings. Even more buildings have been damaged, and thousands are still threatened. In fact, as of early this morning, the fire is only 5% contained. But it's not for lack of trying. There are 800 firefighters battling the flames from both the ground and the sky. Remember, more than 10,000 people have been told to evacuate. The so-called mountain fire broke out in Ventura County earlier this week, and it's still spreading about 40 miles northwest of Los Angeles. The area is tough to access with a pretty rugged, steep terrain. It includes farms, horse ranches, and wedding venues. Making matters worse, strong, dry winds are helping fuel the fire. The good news, though, is the National Weather Service says conditions should improve today, giving firefighters a better chance of putting the fire out for good. We have more news for you still ahead, but first, thanks to our sponsor. What are you enjoying about fall so far? I'm personally a fan of pumpkin patches and the cool, fresh morning air and family cuddles with thick blankets. You know what else I love this season? Cozy cashmere sweaters from Quince, starting at just $50. From the style to the price, Quince has it all. Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, Quince is able to pass those savings on to us. And that's true for my organic cotton knit blazer, washable silk tank, and more. I love having some closet staples that I can throw on with jeans and feel like my best self. Plus, you know I love layers this time of year with the always changing weather. I also really appreciate that Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, and of course, premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. So get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. Scientists expect Earth to be hotter in 2024 than it's ever been in recorded history. Researchers at Europe's leading climate change agency say this year will also surpass a mark the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement said was crucial to avoid, a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in average global temperature. And right now, the world is on pace for more than 3 degrees of warming in the years to come, even if current emissions reduction goals are met. So that's double the target the Paris Agreement set. Earth is already seeing the effects of warming temperatures, so scientists say this news should increase the urgency for nations to commit to dramatic changes at the upcoming COP29 climate conference. Public health officials now say one of the most common ingredients in cold medicines doesn't work, so the FDA wants to get rid of it completely. After studying 3 decades worth of research, the Food and Drug Administration concluded that oral phenylephrine does not do much to unclog stuffy noses. So now the FDA is proposing the rule to require manufacturers to remove the ingredient from all of their oral over-the-counter medications. Phenylephrine is found in many nasal decongestants, including versions of brand names like Sudafed, Mucinex, and NyQuil. In some cases, it's the only active ingredient. Drug companies would be given time to either pull products completely or reformulate them without that ingredient. Now, to be clear, the FDA emphasized that it's completely safe to take the medicine with this ingredient through a pill or liquid, but it's just not effective. Though nasal sprays with the drug are still considered effective decongestants. A controversial new law in Australia would ban social media for anyone under 16 years old, and the proposed law would punish the social media platforms for any violations. The Prime Minister said kids don't have the tools necessary to fully understand and navigate the complex world of social media. But not everyone is sure a total ban is the best approach. A letter from a children's rights advocacy group asked the Prime Minister to consider other safety standards and called the proposed law too blunt since some kids make healthy connections online. Either way, this isn't a law yet. It would first need to pass the Australian Parliament, and even then, it wouldn't take effect for another year from now to give tech companies time to adapt. Separately, Canada recently ordered TikTok to shut down its offices in the country because of national security risks. Canadians can still access the app itself, but the Chinese-owned company can no longer operate its business in Canada. The wildly popular social media platform has faced criticism in the U.S. as well due to national security concerns. Remember, TikTok is currently fighting a law in court that says it must sell to a new owner or be banned in America. So stay tuned. Of course, TikTok is not banned from the U.S. yet. And now TikTok has partnered up with Spotify and Apple Music to let users share their favorite songs, podcasts, audiobooks, and more straight to the TikTok app with the push of a button. Then someone who clicks on the song or podcast in TikTok will easily be able to navigate back to either Spotify or Apple Music. It's similar to what Spotify already has for Instagram stories. It's a big deal because TikTok has historically made it difficult to leave the app, going so far as to prevent links from working. But TikTok is an increasingly powerful force in shaping what music gains traction, so its impact may even go farther now. If you thought Star Wars couldn't possibly get any bigger, think again. A new trilogy focusing on a galaxy far, far away is reportedly in the works. The original 9-part Skywalker saga began with the original A New Hope in 1977 and concluded with 2019's Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. But apparently the story may not end there. Reports say this new series will pick up where the 9-parter left off. That said, Lucasfilm, which makes the Star Wars movies, has not officially revealed what the movies will be about. Still, this trilogy could be the first Star Wars movie to appear in theaters since 2019. All right, that's it for the main news today. So now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. So this month is all about gratitude. So I want to take a moment to thank my therapist. I know I can just say anything I need to say to her without fear of judgment, and I know the response is going to be exactly what I need to hear. She also usually reminds me to give myself credit. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything, and in this sometimes crazy world, it isn't always easy. So here's your reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life who you appreciate, including yourself. And if, like me, you want a place to talk about whatever it is you need to talk about and get the response, perspective, and skills you need to live a better life, try out therapy. BetterHelp is a convenient place to start. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Feel Good Friday. Custodians often go underappreciated, but one Missouri elementary school felt so much gratitude for its custodian, Claudine Wilson, they decided to name their building after her. Wilson has worked as a custodian at the school in this tiny town for 30 years. In fact, she often went above and beyond her job description, filling in for lunch duty, school bus driving, landscaping, and more. She said she would often leave her house at 6 in the morning and return at 7:30 in the evening, and she did it all for the kids. Sometimes she would even buy ice cream for students when she thought they needed it, or would simply listen when someone wanted to talk. So when she retired over the summer, the school board wanted to find an appropriate way to thank her for decades of service and dedication to the school, and even more so to the students. So they voted unanimously to name the whole building after her. Now, Claudine Wilson Learning Center serves both as a token of gratitude for decades of service and an inspiration to the children who go there to show them the value of hard work, dedication, and lending a helping hand. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode with some post-election analysis from both sides of the aisle. The political commentators offer their insights into the results and where each party may go from here. And they also share a common message for the whole country. Then join us again Monday for another Daily News Roundup. For now, thanks so much again for listening and have a great weekend.